This is the Montana Outdoor Podcast, brought to you in part by Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer in Missoula, home of Boss Snowplows, CM Truck Beds, and Diamond Sea Trailers. Just go to rmtte.com for more information. And by Superior Hardwoods of Montana, home of the largest selection of in-stock high-end wood products and flooring in the western United States. Let them guide you through the woods at superior-hardwoods.com. Now, get ready for more fascinating topics and the most interesting people you will ever find in Montana's great outdoors. We offer new podcasts most every Saturday. You can get a link to these podcasts by going to our website, montanooutdoor.com, or by going to our Facebook page, or just send an email to Downrigger at montanooutdoor.com and say send a link to my email. It's that simple. Now let's head out with your host, Downrigger Dale, and see what's going on in Montana's great outdoors.
Thank you very much, Manny, and welcome everyone to the Montana Outdoor Podcast. This is Downrigger Dale, and today I want to talk about something we've actually talked about on our live radio show several times. It's something that a lot of you have sent me, in fact, a great deal of you have sent me emails asking if I would do a podcast about this and talk about it. It's, to me, one of the more fascinating projects that Montana has. It's got an incredible history. It touches a lot of you. In fact, as you guys listen, you're going to find out it probably affects you too. You may not even live near there, but it affects you. And especially those of you on the High Line. What we're talking about here is the Milk River Project. And I have with me today Jennifer Patrick. She is, well, I'll let you start, Jennifer, with tell us a bit about yourself and what you do for this whole Milk River project.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Dale, for having me. This is exciting. So my name is Jennifer Patrick. I am the project manager for the Milk River Joint Board of Control. The Joint Board of Control is made up of about 110,000 irrigated acres on the Milk River project from Fresno to Glasgow. We also are the largest stakeholder on the St. Mary's and milk system, that makes up the Milk River project. And so the joint board was created in 1999 because they saw a need for someone to help in the middle of, this is a very complex project. We have an international water transfer. We have the tribes, two Native American tribes, and then also the state of Montana, the federal government. And so there's a lot of things going on in our project. And so I have been with the board for about 18 years now. And so I do the management, and lately, as we'll probably talk about later, have taken over the project management for the St. Mary's Siphon failure. So that's in a nutshell, real quick.
Other than that, you just don't have much going on, huh?
Yeah, no. Chasing two little kiddos, so nothing else going on.
Yeah, that is a lot. So, as I understand it, the Milk River project kind of has several sub-projects within it. Let's start with the St. Mary's Siphon. That's one that was in the news when it failed. Talk a bit about that, what it is and what happened.
Sure. So the St. Mary's system up by Glacier National Park, the project is 100% on the Blackfeet Reservation, failed June 17th of last year, 2024, where the St. Mary's Siphon, which is 100 plus years old, we're one of 5 oldest reclamation projects authorized in 1905. So this siphon has been up there since I think it was completed in 1915. No repairs. So it was the original siphon that failed, and that failure stopped all water transfer any to the Milk River project itself, Milk River Canada and Milk River in the U.S. So pretty much any water transfer to the Milk River project, which happens to be dry 6 out of 10 years, was stopped to the, we lovingly call it the High Line, but the entire top part of the state of Montana. So,
yeah, to me, it's just fascinating that 1915, this was built, and I mean, in essence, it's moving water from the Glacier Park area over the divide and across across the High Line through the Milk River, which, if I understand, that's like the second largest river in Montana, which a lot of people don't realize.
Yeah.
That goes all the way up into Canada, back down through. And I mean, I can't even imagine what they had to do back in 1915. I mean, they don't have the technology. They didn't have the technology and the huge equipment we have today. How long do you know historically? How long did it take them to build that back in 1915?
Oh, so authorized in 1905. The construction started in 1907.
Gee.
There's some pieces like you talked about. Dodson Dam down in the Malta area was constructed between 1908 to 1917. Like you said, it took quite a few years. That first siphon barrel, and when I say a siphon, what the siphon is doing is it is transferring water across the St. Mary's River, across a coulee onto the other side, because this 29-mile canal up at St. Mary's is 100% gravity fed. We don't have any pumps, we don't have anything. And so we are gravity feeding 29 miles. And so the engineering is amazing back then.
Yeah.
And so, they between, I guess, 1905 and when they brought that second barrel, the second siphon of St. Mary's in 1929. So, I mean, you've got 20 plus years, probably 10 to 15 really good years of construction up in that area. So yeah, it wasn't a quick project.
No. And
Amazing.
must have
Amazing.
been just incredible to do. So when that failed, and I think a lot of folks probably saw footage of that, and it was in the papers and all over and on the internet, pretty catastrophic as far as what water pressure can do. Where is that project now as far as getting it repaired and getting the water back moving where it needs to go?
Yeah. So pretty amazing team effort. I have to throw, tip my hat out there to a partnership. We have a really good relationship with the Bureau of Reclamation. They stepped in immediately. We transferred the project to the Joint Board of Control. The Joint Board is I would say co-managing it, because I talk to Reclamation every day on it. It's in our name, but Reclamation is there every step of the way. So where we're at right now is we have 3 amazing companies on site. NW Construction out of Bozeman. We have Sletton Construction out of Montana. Sletton's all over as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then Pro Pipe that are on all Montana companies on this project. They have worked for almost a year. I mean, we're coming up on almost a year, and we are getting dangerously close to sending water back down those siphons. They have worked, I think there was 2 days, and Dale, Montana winters.
Yeah.
2 days that they took off. The pipe crew, Pro Pipe, was 6 days a week sometimes in the elements. And I mean, it is amazing what those guys have done up there. And then we have an engineering team, HDR Engineering, that has stayed so far ahead. You got to imagine this failure happened and we didn't have designs and drawings, and everyone is scrambling. And so we were very lucky that we had NW Construction in the area that was doing the diversion dam right next door to us. We were able to pull those guys over, and then Sletton did the drops for us. And so we grabbed them to start on the bridge. And so we were very lucky, number one, that all of them said yes. And we're coming up on a year, and we're going to have water flowing. I think we're going to be a year and one week.
Wow.
That we'll turn back on. So
that is just truly amazing. And I can't even imagine, you're working with water, and in the dead of winter, water gets hard. It freezes. It just boggles my mind, and hats off to everybody involved in that, because that was just major. Now, when that stopped, when the whole thing failed, what waterways did that affect across the High Line then? Go ahead.
So right away, initially, with the failure happened, the Milk River area, which is Milk River, Coots, and Sweetgrass, were completely turned off, and those are Canadian, U.S. They don't have a storage facility. We at least had a storage facility, which is Fresno, right outside of Havre,
Right.
west of Havre, about 14 miles, I think. So we did have some storage that we were able to continue irrigating on, but as soon as that water was gone, we were into saving mode for the municipalities to get through winter, all of those things. And so I think they were, one irrigation pretty heavily last year, but it stopped all water flows to the Milk River, and we were in a drought. And so there
Yeah.
weren't a ton of, inflows into that Milk River either.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty catastrophic to everyone on the High Line.
It really was. And, of course, our live show that we do every Saturday, the Montana Outdoor Radio Show, and then, of course, this podcast, I mean, most of the people we're talking to are fishermen and folks that love to hunt and all that, plus just work in the outdoors, a lot of farmers, ranchers, and that. And so thus the reason a lot of people are saying, what's going to happen? And I think, most people were very sympathetic to it. They realized, hey, this is something that it's lasted a long time, but it happened. But, for obvious reasons, that gets concerning to a lot of people because this actually supplies water to several communities, right?
Yeah, about 18,000 residents. So Havre, Chinook, Harlem, and the Fort Belknap Agency. And then, the other thing that no one really realizes, those aquifers recharge, the people that have wells, the cities that have wells that are close to the Milk River, when that river goes dry and continues to stay dry, those aquifers are having trouble. People's wells that are really shallow wells had trouble. And so that's something that, we have 18,000 people in communities, but it reached a lot farther. The people along the canal in Bab even, saw those aquifer recharges that just wasn't there anymore. Stock water, stuff like that. So it had a big impact to the residents as well.
So where did those communities get the water then until this gets back going?
The community, there was water in the river, the well pressure, most of the releases from Fresno, we continued to release, I think 100 CFS until we went down to winter flows, which is about 65 million gallons per day. I mean, enough for the cities and stuff, but if you had a shallow well, you were seeing lower pressures.
Man.
You were fighting pressures, you were fighting stock water, because a lot of the people, rely on the water going down the ditches for their stock water as well.
Sure.
That's an incidental purpose. That there's all these little things that creeped up that, we take for granted, with the water's just been there. So.
Now I know that a lot of folks are probably wondering right now, okay, well, where do I get updates on this? Is there a place they can go to get updates and kind of follow the progress of how all this is coming?
Yeah, so, a couple places. I've been trying to update our milkriverproject.com website as much as I can. And then we've been posting pictures of all the projects because we're actually under construction on the diversion dam, which is a $100 million project right at the start of the diversion dam. Starts diverting water down our canal. So that's $100 million project.
St. Mary Diversion Dam, right?
The St. Mary's Diversion Dam. And that starts everything on our project down the 29-mile canal. And so with that diversion, fish-friendly features, because we have the endangered bull trout. So it was a must. We got sued by the Alliance of the Wild Rockies years ago. It brought that to the top, so it needed to be done. So that was priority number one. And then you turn around, and then we have just down the way, we have the diversion, or we have the siphons that are under construction, which is about a $70 million project. And then you move to Fresno, and we have another $70 million project, which is the safety of dams going on. So we're under contract, or we're under construction on a lot of pieces of this project. And so it's not just one issue here.
Yeah. So you've got, and in fact, those of you listening, when you found this podcast, whether it was on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or on our website, montanaaoutdoor.com, there's a section that's called the podcast description. And just below that, you're going to see highlighted, it'll say links. And I'm going to put a link to the St. Mary's River Project. This is the milkriverproject.com that you just mentioned, Jen. So if you folks listening right now want to click on it, you can, and you can kind of follow along. But mainly just after you're done listening, go back through and you can see all these various projects. In fact, if you go to the menu there, you're going to see it says projects, and you can see each project and see how that's going. In fact, one of the things I was looking at earlier, in fact, I'm looking at right now too, there's a picture called the St. Mary's Siphon failure, and there's a hole there. How deep is that hole?
Well, and I want to go back one sec. We also have a Facebook page, Milk River Project Facebook page, that I have put pictures daily, sometimes weekly, of the progress, because it's cool to see. But that hole is between 40 and 50 feet that the water washed out. And so it's an incredibly giant hole.
Yeah, it's like a crater. Yeah. I mean, so it's deep, but it's really wide too.
Very powerful.
And that was that siphon that when it blew out, it just that water pressure just blew that hole open, right?
Yeah. And we were running about 400 CFS through there, which the authorized is 850. We usually run 600, but we were shutting down because we had a small gate problem that was noticed up above, and so actually it was lower than normal, but
could have been worse.
So powerful. Yeah. So, and we were so lucky that we had one of the guys that was right there. We are so lucky when it blew that something didn't happen to him. So,
that by the grace of God that no one was killed there. I mean, that just amazing. So with all these projects going, and that, how long do you anticipate, you probably get this question all the time, before everything gets completed? What do you have a kind of an estimate of where things will be, when it will be?
The entire St. Mary's system?
Yeah. Maybe go through each project and give us an estimate on each one, and then.
Yeah. So Fresno should be wrapping up. I'll start down that way. Fresno should be wrapping up this year. It was a 3-year project, and this will wrap up. And that was to put a sand filter on the dam. That dam is 100% earth filled. It has settled. And so they needed to make sure they were filtering it if something happened. So we didn't have an Orville Dam situation on our hands.
Yeah, I did a podcast on that, and had, pardon me, but the gentleman's name escapes me now, but and he talked about where that was at, and that how that dam was. So that's almost done then.
Yep. So Fresno is very close to being finished, probably fall this year with the seeding and everything. We move up to the diversion dam. The diversion dam is a 3-year project. We're in year 2. This will be probably the heavy lift of the year to get going this year and next year. So that is underway. And then the siphons, which are St. Mary's, we are hoping to be done. I mean, there's going to be cleanup and seeding and everything, but to have water running early July. And then we are going to move over to Halls Coulee. And so we would like to finish Halls Coulee in this calendar year, but I'm sure it's going to slip to 2026 a little bit, just because weather conditions and everything. You're not going to get lucky twice up there to have a great winter.
Right.
But and then the thing, Dale, is we have 29 miles of canal, and there are still other structures. When the drop failed in 2020, we went in and we fixed 2 of those drops, but there's 5 total drops, so we have 3 more left to go. And you have some wasteways, and then 29 miles of canal lining and not lining, excuse me, canal prism and reshaping and bringing that all up. And so there's probably between 200 and 300 million dollars in projects that haven't even started, that aren't even being done. Funding for those is kind of out there in the balance. One funding mechanism is through the Fort Belknap Compact. If the Fort Belknap Compact gets legs and passes, then you move into that. But there's still tons of work up in that area. So, without the funding, you can't fix it.
Right.
But the big structures are getting done. And that's the most important part, because if a canal fails, we can go in and fix it. It's earth. It's, you bring big equipment. We got great guys, you go in and fix those. But if the siphon washes out, it's not just a quick fix. And so with these structures getting out of the way, as I would say, our water source is a little more secure, that we're not worrying on a big catastrophic failure that we're going to lose a facility. So.
Right. Yeah. Well, we're going to take just a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to talk a bit about maybe some of the changes that folks are going to probably have seen or probably will see. And I'll talk in specifics for like anglers and homeowners, farmers, ranchers in the area of how that's going to improve things and what they hope to see. And then we'll talk a bit about, here on the Montana Outdoor Podcast, we talk about doing fun stuff out here in Montana's great outdoors. Now, we don't bring up work, and we for sure don't talk about taxes. Well, that is until now. But hey, don't worry. I'm going to talk about those things in a good way. What do I mean by that? Well, my friends at Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer can help you put your tax refund into the perfect equipment that will get the job done way faster, so you can get back out of here with us and do all the fun stuff in Montana's great outdoors. Now, how can that be? Well, just talk to the gang at Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer, and they'll show you their incredible line of new baseline equipment trailers and dump trailers. I'm here to tell you, those are things that will for sure help you get the job done faster than you likely have ever thought possible. Now, let me give you an example. Baseline dump trailers have the absolute best combination of quality and functionality that will flat make those trailers the backbone of all your projects. See, the baseline dump trailers at Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer feature a multifunctional gate with a holdback system and board brackets to give you extra hauling capacity and stability. And like I said, it's a dump trailer, so whether you're clearing debris, hauling gravel, or managing construction tasks, when you get to where you're going, you just turn it on, dump the load, and before you know it, you're heading to your favorite lake, river, or stream. And that's just one example of how my friends at Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer can help you increase your productivity and make your workday go a whole lot smoother and faster. So go see your baseline dealer. It's Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer. They have inventory in stock right now for purchase. So go see them today. That's Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer in Missoula, Montana at 5680 Expressway. Or just give them a call, 406-549-4243. Or you can go see their whole inventory online at rmtte.com. That's rmtte.com. Do it today because, hey, we miss you out here. It's time to come fishing. I'm with Jennifer Patrick with the Milk River Project, and this has just been fascinating. Jen, I'll tell you, the work that's being done and I really hope folks will take some time and go online and look at it, whether it's on the Facebook page, which I'll have a link to that, and just see the scope of this. It really is historic. So let's talk a bit about how this is going to change things. I know for some of the anglers that were sending me emails, they were worried about water levels in Fresno and other areas. Of course, the Milk River itself, and that. So from a wildlife standpoint, how do you think this will help things once it's all done? When do you think anglers will start to notice maybe some stability in water levels and fishing?
So I want to back up a little bit, Dale,
Okay.
to we're talking 700 river miles at least that we have here, that we're talking about 2 or 3 storage facilities that the fishing, anglers, the recreation, stuff like that. The system was built and is authorized 100% an irrigation facility.
Mm-hmm.
And so, there's this tricky balance. I love recreation. I'm not a fisherman myself, but, there's a lot of us that are. And so, the biggest thing is right this year, the irrigation districts are going to start taking water, and Fresno is going to start dropping. And, it's not probably the greatest thing for the fishing and the recreation in the interim. It's the same with Nelson, but we also have to be able to pay for these facilities that we're rehabbing. Fast forward to next year, when we're just remembering this as a distant memory. We have the water is coming across. We hope to be able to move up, as we continue upgrades to the canal. We're usually sending about 500 across. We're authorized to 850. Once some of these features get upgraded, we will be able to push the canal to a higher level of what we're authorized to move across. And so what that does to the projects is, number one, we have a reliable water source for municipalities for the 700 miles of for all the recreation, the fishing, the hunting, the cabin, everything like that. So, that is going to come. That is going to come with, when we turn it on, we're not worried about shutting off and failing right now. And so I think that as we move forward out of this failure and continue with these structure upgrades, it's not as I don't know. I don't even know the word to say it. Questionable, maybe is a good word. We're not questioning, are we going to have water? Yes, we're going to have water, but at the end of the day, it still is irrigation. We're still going to pull it down.
And anglers understand that. That's been going on forever. But we will probably get, I would say, maybe more back to the norm before
100%.
the blowout.
And better than the normal, because the siphons were the real linchpin of why we couldn't send a lot more water. We're going to work on the canal, work on bringing up that, the farmers and ranchers, if they're taking 800 out and 800 is coming in, the reservoir stays pretty level.
Yeah.
Nelson, is variable as well. But I just think that it's way less of a question moving forward with this water. But in this year, in the interim, I'm sorry for that news, because it's not the greatest news ever.
Well, but it is what it is. And of course, another big stakeholder in all this, as you mentioned, a huge stakeholder are the farmers and the irrigation side of it. So as these projects come to a close, that has got to be a pretty big relief for them. They're going to have a more consistent irrigation source. Is that accurate to say?
100%. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. How have they been dealing with it since then? Montana's been having quite a drought. Anyway, I think it's improved. Our snowpack levels are much better in that. But how have they been handling all this?
They keep telling me that a rain can change everything. Some of them are the most optimistic people I've ever met. I work for a group of the greatest guys in the world. And right now they're optimistic. I think the biggest thing is, we've been saying this. I've been saying it for 18 years. There's a lot of people, the St. Mary's Working Group that has said, hey, this is going to fail. We need to do something. 20, 30 years ago, it's a congressional authorization. We're one of the oldest projects in the United States. We get caught in a 1905 authorization. And so they've been saying this is going to happen. And at 74.96%, I think is our cost share. How do you do $200 million in projects?
Yeah.
You can't. And so the biggest thing is with this failure, with the state stepping up, the state was very, very, very big in it's a loan and some bonding authority to get this done. My group of irrigators are going to be putting $3 an acre into an account to pay back this money, and it's going into a special account for them for future use. So it's a savings account. So when we're in this position years later, we have millions of dollars that we have to kick off these projects. And so I think that's a big deal. Sitting here, these guys were trying to figure out how we pay for this. Yes, this is an awful year. This is going to be an awful year for irrigation. But if you told them that it was going to cost $3 an acre and you would have 4 very large projects completed, they wouldn't have believed you. And so as far as that, they continue to remain optimistic and thankful, I would say.
So that kind of brings me to how we can help. What can the general public do? Now, you talked about the funding side of it, and that, of course, we've seen where, one of the focuses of this current administration is to try to cut waste and all that. And that's been a bit of controversy for some people. Me personally, I think it's great where they're cutting fraud and waste. This is far from waste. I mean, this is irrigating lands that people get the food from. So would it help if people continue to write letters to their congressman and that sort of thing? Or what can we do to help you now and in the future?
Number one, be patient. Give us a little grace on this. We're really trying. And the other thing is always the congressional authors, the congressional delegation from the state of Montana to our federal group are amazing. I mean, you can pick up the phone and Senator Dane, Senator Sheehy, Zinke, and Representative Downing are, how can we help? What can we do? Senator Tester was very pro-project as well. And so they were they always want to hear about the Milk River Project. And so that is huge. We're not done yet. Fresno, we did a survey of the entire facility, and we are losing 500 acre feet of storage a year. With the siltation. And so that'll be the next big project that we talk about. Do you dredge it? Do you put a bladder on it? What do you do? None of that is cheap. And so we've been going through that with Reclamation through some drought funding. But like you said, the spending and the waste, that's not on a top priority. The St. Mary's system is our top priority. So I think as the general public, absolutely, keep the St. Mary's in conversations always. It's a hot topic everywhere you go. And so, we appreciate everyone's just when you have FaceTime, even with our state senators, and you just bring it up, it's in their mind. And so we appreciate that from everyone.
Yeah. We're pretty fortunate, I think, in Montana in that, all the folks that are representing us in Washington and even statewide really do kind of keep a hands-on. I mean, I think they have a good understanding of how important agriculture is and how important the outdoors are in Montana. I mean, just hunting and fishing alone, it boggles my mind the billions that get brought into the state's economy from that.
Right.
And so I think they're very in tune with it, but it never hurts to keep asking. And I think it's important too to when you do get an opportunity, whether you see them or you're maybe go to an event or something and see them. Never hurts to say, hey, thanks for keeping an eye on this and making it a priority. And we'll let you know if you're not. But so far, they're doing a good job, I think. Yeah.
You nailed it right there, Dale, is thank you. Thank you for everything you're doing, have done. We wouldn't be where we are. Everyone says, oh, they let it fail. Well, we have four, two on each side versus a lot of other senators. They all have their pet projects as well, in all those other states. And so for our senators and representatives to keep this on the forefront is huge. And so, a thank you.
Yeah.
And then
they have to go convince several hundred other politicians to agree to move the money that way.
And it's not an easy.
No, that's a heavy lift too, from a political standpoint.
And being from Montana, born and raised here, being able to pick up the phone and calling, the deputy or the director of Reclamation, the commissioner of Reclamation, and our senators will go into their office and ask the questions or ask why this report hasn't gone through and ask all these things. It's huge. I mean, for my job, they make it so much easier when they go in and they ask those pointed questions. And so I cannot say enough good about all of them. So
yeah, I'm just so glad to hear that, and I've kind of known that just from the interviews on related type topics that I've done, but it's great to hear from you that the cooperation is there and that people are doing their best to be patient and now a good old pat in the back and a thank you for all this hard work everybody's doing is important because it's been some long hours, I know, for you and a lot of other people. So what's in the future, would you say, once this is done? I one of the emails that I got kind of pointed it out. Okay, well, when you get a chance to do this podcast, ask them, how are they going to keep this from happening again? So
yeah, absolutely. 100%. Number one, I've got to come back to, we are a federally owned facility. And so, no offense to the federal government, we jump at emergencies. The state of Montana it was House Bill 6, kind of put in a mechanism that was a little bit, some individuals wanted it as a full grant. Here's your money. The governor and budget director and DNRC director all worked on, hey, the lieutenant governor was instrumental in this as well. We need to have a way to pay for it later down the road for our kids or our kids' kids, when something happens. And so that's what this account is, moving towards. So, we'd have some money, but I think the biggest thing is once this all gets taken care of, we need to talk about a cost share, reallocation for our project. We're stuck in 1905. We have the original authorization. We've added different things. And I go back to the Blackfeet Nation. We're 100% on the Blackfeet for the St. Mary's project. They have a compact that's come into the realm of their water compact. And so they could add hydro to the facilities. They could do some things that they have the rights to. So we have to have a different mechanism. So this will try to give us a mechanism to have that savings account. And then we need to go to Congress. And most projects are the opposite of what we are, the 75-25. And so it's just a very hard sell to say, change it now when we're $500 million in projects. It's kind of like asking the federal government for an open checkbook, and that's just not going to fly. And so we've got to tick off these projects. And then, go to them and say, hey, we're done with our projects. Our project is back up to beautiful, perfect condition. Now, how do we talk about a cost share? So my group of irrigators can start putting this money back and putting this money into districts and putting this money into other projects versus putting it into normal payroll operations and maintenance and the overhead stuff that you guys don't ever see that happens in Denver or DC that we're also paying for here in Montana. How do we remove that? So I think there's a big congressional lift there that we're going to need some help on, but we've got to figure out that cost share.
Yeah. Yeah. Want to make this future proof, if you will. That's important. We're going to take one last quick break, and then when we come back, we'll kind of wrap it up. And I got a few questions on making sure we get the word out to everybody on how they can get different updates and things like that. So, have you ever thought of doing a DIY project for your home? I've known John, Corey, and the rest of the gang at Superior Hardwoods in Missoula, Montana, for a very long time. They've always been there for me, and I know they'll be there for you too. A true partner to help complete your DIY home improvements. Heck, they have been doing that since 1977. Whether you're dreaming of a charming accent wall or a complete floor makeover, they have it covered. There is no better feeling than the satisfaction of adding a touch of history to your home with their unique reclaimed woods. Now, I'm not just talking about lumber here. I'm talking about a story waiting to be told. My friends at Superior Hardwoods of Montana proudly stock over 11 acres of stunning reclaimed wood, perfect for turning your house into a home that is as unique as, well, you are. And don't worry, if you're just starting out with your first DIY project, the pre-finished flooring, pre-finished paneling, and trim options at Superior Hardwoods make it easier than ever to tackle any project like you've been doing it for years. So what do you say, gang? Why not dive into your next DIY adventure with confidence and let the decades of experience that they have at Superior Hardwoods take you through every step? Need a little inspiration? Well, visit them online at superior-hardwoods.com. Now, that's a great place to start out by browsing their website, again, at superior-hardwoods.com. That's superior-hardwoods.com. Not only will they help guide you through your home makeover with all their amazing ideas and their over 100,000 square feet of the most incredible wood flooring, paneling, and other wood products, they'll actually guide you through the woods. Now, what do I mean by that? I'll give you an example. First time I went to their showroom just south of Missoula on Highway 93 South, I was blown away by the unbelievable selection of different types of wood from not just Montana, but from all over the world. Best of all, I sat down with them, told them a bit about what I was thinking of doing, and the next thing I knew, I was hearing incredible ideas and learning about the perfect wood for what I wanted to do. That is what I mean by letting them guide you through the woods at Superior Hardwoods of Montana. Go see them. Jennifer Patrick is my guest. We're talking about this Milk River project, and it's a massive one. And actually, that's kind of a placeholder to cover a lot of individual projects, which when you go to milkriverproject.com, you can see all the different projects. You can see a lot of other things. Also, where do they find that on Facebook again, Jen? Say that one again.
It's the Milk River Project on Facebook.
So on
Facebook
Facebook
if they
too.
Google that, they will find us. Yeah.
All right, and I'll put a link once we're done with this. I'll get a link to that for everybody, so it'll just be easy to click on it and go to it. One of the areas of the website that I was looking at is called water forecasts. Now, explain what that is. Is that where they can kind of find out what it's looking like for the amount of water that's coming, or explain what that section is?
So there, it's going to show what the allocation for the 2025 year. They actually decided that last night in Malta. I've tried to map where our reservoirs are, our stream gauges are, we've got USGS has some stream gauges all the way up and down the basin. You can see water flows. You can see where the snow tells are. You can see the water forecast. We'll also put when water allotments are decided, where we're kind of going. Reclamation puts their plans out there. And so anything regarding your water operations, the calls on water and stuff like that will go in that area. So just try to keep everyone as transparent as we can.
Yeah, and that'll be helpful. So I do encourage people to take a look at that. There's some water operation links there that will help you and show, like, for example, Fresno reservoir levels, Nelson reservoir levels, things like that. So kind of a handy deal there. So be sure to take a look at that. There's a lot of information on this website that I think all of you are going to find helpful. And then the other thing is, I definitely want to have you back on again, and we'll get, I know a lot of emails and questions, follow-up questions from people. So maybe one of these days when you can carve out some more time for us again, we can ask you some of those follow-up questions from our listeners and do that. That would be awesome. Before we wrap it up, though, talk a bit about some of the other areas that you want to make sure people know about. I know one of the things is talking about the Blackfeet tribe and that participation there.
Yeah, the biggest thing that I want to go back to is partnerships. This project, the siphon failure, if this had happened and we stayed under normal reclamation and the federal government, there's nothing against, I'm not saying anything bad about reclamation. They have been wonderful. But they have their policies, they have their engineering teams, they have their structure that they have to go through. We would be talking 3 years would be a best case scenario. We're going to wrap this project. And yes, we've had Bureau oversight. We've had a lot of QC, a lot of QA out on this site. I mean, we're not skipping all of these things, but we have just proved that working as partners with us, the state, the Blackfeet tribe, we have, I don't know, for people unfamiliar with working on a reservation, they have a tribal employment resource office, and they have been wonderful. They have grabbed the cream of the crop and given us employees, about 60 plus employees, from operators to iron workers to concrete laborers, all of that. We've had amazing crews up there that just continue to show up day in, day out. I'm seeing the payroll and the hours and everything like that, and they're blowing us away. And so, as far as hats off to the Blackfeet tribe, we are up there, and they have been nothing but good stewards to us. I can't say enough about the cultural offices, everything like that. And so, it just continues to go back to partnerships, that there is no shot of getting this done, Dale, if we did not have these good relationships all the way from the federal team down state of Montana. Our senators, Senator Tuss, Senator Lang, pushed for this House Bill 6 loan. Without them, we would have had this funding freeze from the federal government. Our funding was frozen. We were able to shift that DNRC loan into there and continue going. We weren't off for a month and a half. So, from A to Z, I can't tell you enough how this project has been expedited because of that. So,
well, what I'm hearing is, one day when this is all done, I mean, this almost can be a textbook example of cooperation from federal to state to different agencies within federal, state, tribal, all that. I mean, this could have been a lot of finger pointing and a bigger mess than it was. I mean, you never can predict when a disaster like this happens, but it really has been something that, instead of hey, was this guy's fault or that guy's fault? All of you just jumped in and said, let's fix it.
We didn't have time to finger point at anyone.
Right.
That is the biggest thing. NRCS, another federal agency that came to the table and said, hey, we don't know how to get you guys help or money. We can do stream restoration. We had all of that 40-foot hole that we talked about earlier that was in the river. And so NRCS said, hey, we want to come, we want to partner. Let's do stream restoration. How can we help you? The DNRC, how can we help you? Everyone kept saying, the Canadians even, how can we help you in this climate? We struggle to get money across, it's a federal project,
Sure.
It's a US owned, but how can we come to the table? And so I think that is huge. DES, both tribal and state of Montana. How is this going to impact municipalities? How can we help with the water situation? And I think that's a key. No matter what happens with, this project, we're all in it together.
Yeah.
I mean, if we fail, we fail together. If we succeed, we all succeed together, and that is our whole point. I could care less who let it fail. We're all probably blame on that, but to move it forward in almost a year, it's pretty incredible.
Yeah, and that's why I brought it up is for those of you listening, I mean, this really is one of those good news kind of projects. I mean, that we often hear how, agencies don't cooperate and all that, but this happened the right way. And that's just great to see. So, a little good news on how your tax dollars are getting used and how people are doing what they need to do with each other and come to their aid. On the website, there is an area that it's when you look at the menu, it says our partners, and you can read about that and see who those partners are and that. So take a look at that. It's an interesting story, and even that there's a documentary film on the website that's really neat to watch. So a lot of stuff on there. And the point of this podcast was to, get everybody an update and give you some sources of where to go find things. Now, get back to me with your questions and that, and then we'll go from there. But this has been fascinating to watch and encouraging to see done. And on behalf of all our listeners, thank you very much, Jennifer, for what you've done and continuing to do in your agency. This is a impressive deal.
Well, and we need to turn around and thank you guys for doing podcasts and doing the media and the news and getting the word out, because it's just been A to Z. That's all I can say is it's been positive. Yes, there's a lot of issues with it, but let's put the spin on the positive that it's going to be better days moving forward. So.
Yeah. That's what we want. All right. Well, I know you've got a lot going on and a lot to do, so I'll let you get back to it. But I want to thank you again. Now, if folks would like to ask questions of you, do you have an email that they can contact you directly? Would you rather they go through me? How would you like that done?
It doesn't matter. There's a contact us on the Facebook. My email's right there. There's on the website, my email's there. It's Jenn, JENN at mrjboc.com.
Perfect.
Okay. I'm an open book. It might take me a day or so to get back to you.
That's understandable.
All comments are welcome, and we'll try to get you the best answer that we can. So I might not always be the one to answer it. So
sure. All right. Well, I'll have that in the podcast description as well, everyone, so you'll be able to click on those and see it. So we'll go from there. But I'm glad that you had some time to give us this update, because this is great information. And then, like you say, better days ahead. So thanks again, Jenn, for spending time with us today.
Yeah. Thank you.
And there you have it, folks. That's the update you've been asking for. Now, you get back to me. Tell me what you're thinking. Manny will give you my email address in a second. Of course, it's right there in the podcast descriptions. And let's keep this communication going. And, as you run across some of these folks, just stop and say, hey, thanks for your hard work, because it's been a lot of hard work, and it's moving in the right direction. So that's good to see. Hey, until we talk again, folks, be safe out there, be good to each other, and we'll see you next time here on the Montana Outdoor Podcast.
Thanks for listening to the Montana Outdoor Podcast. It has been brought to you in part by Superior Hardwoods of Montana, home of the largest selection of in-stock high-end wood products and flooring in the western United States. Let them guide you through the woods at superior-hardwoods.com. And by Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer in Missoula, home of Boss Snowplows, CM Truck Beds, and Diamond Sea Trailers. Just go to rmtte.com for more information. So what did you think of today's podcast? Send your questions and comments to Downrigger at montanooutdoor.com. We should be dropping a new podcast this next Saturday. Until then, we will see you soon out in Montana's great outdoors.